So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jessica Valdez, and I'm the benefits agent for 13th floor. I see a few familiar names, so we're here again at open enrollment time. We're going to go over our benefits, go over the changes that we made. If there's any one-on-one questions, this meeting is being recorded, so let's wait till the end. If it's any sensitive questions, and as always, you guys have my cell phone and my email, and if you would like to talk after the enrollment meeting, please feel free to reach out and we could discuss your situation one-on-one. So we always like to remind you guys of our team. I know a lot of you are familiar with our claims team, so just always like to give a refresher on our team and what they're here to help with. Our service team is here to help with simple things such as finding a doctor, ordering an ID card, any benefit questions. Our claims team is going to help when you're actually using the insurance. So if you get a bill you feel is incorrect, you forget to show your GAP card, having issues with a prior authorization or any questions on prescriptions, our claims team is here to help. And then our enrollment team is going to be assisting throughout your enrollment process. Here we have everyone's emails. They're also able to call us at the office from 9 to 5. And on our website, we also have a client tools portal if you'd rather reach out to our team in that way. If you do not have my email is going to be just the same as all the teams. It's just going to be my name, jessica@fdnational.com. So we are in open enrollment. The changes that we make this year are going to be effective September 1st to August 31st of the following year. This is your time to make any changes to your plan. So whether you want to add a dependent or delete a dependent or change your coverage, this is the time to do it. Throughout the year, you can only make a change to your coverage if you have a qualifying event, such as a marriage, divorce, birth, adoption, Medicare entitlement, or you lost or gained other coverage. So if you're a full-time employee and you've passed your waiting period, first of the month following 60 days, you are eligible to participate in the plan. Your dependents are also eligible to participate. You can add a legal spouse, domestic partner, and or your children up to the age of 30. Your children have to be unmarried and have no children of their own, have a Florida resident, or if not, a full-time or part-time student at an accredited institution, not eligible for Medicare. So let's jump into the changes that we have this year. So we are staying with neighborhood health, but we are changing our plan options. We're still going to have GAP. We're still going to have Transamerica as our GAP, but we did change the base neighborhood health policy. So I'm going to go side by side on the differences. You are going to get a new ID card with a new ID number. The enrollment is closed this following Monday, and it's important that we get the enrollments in on time so we can have the ID numbers in hopefully by the 21st. So any of you that have to get a new prior authorization, we have more than enough time to update the providers with the new information. And as always, our claims team and myself are here to help with that process. So the first plan, our base plan, is a neighborhood open access HMO, meaning no referrals are needed. If you need to go to a specialist, the neighborhood network is Florida only. There are two different GAP options that are being offered, a 6,500, 6,500, and an 8,000, 8,000. As a refresher, the GAP gives us two benefits. It's going to give us one benefit amount for your outpatient services. So that's going to be your ER, your urgent care, your outpatient surgery, and your minor and major diagnostics. Then your second benefit is going to be if you're hospitalized, meaning you're in the hospital for more than 23 hours. So your PCP copay with this plan is $50 and the specialist is $75. If you are having any services done in the doctor's office, that's a diagnostic or surgical procedure, the GAP will cover that, but it won't cover the $50 or $75 you paid to see the PCP or the specialist. Virtual visits using the app Amwell are $0. I always recommend using virtual visits. It's a time saver, it's a money saver, and you could do it in the comfort of your home, and they could even prescribe you through the phone. Minute Clinic is $50. That is not covered by the gap. Your ER with this plan, the ER applies your $5,000 deductible, and then you have 50% co-insurance. So what does that mean in English? Let's say your ER visit is $6,000. Without the gap, you would pay $5,000 and then 50% of the difference from 6,000 to 5,000. So that ER visit of 6,000 would really have cost you $5,500. However, with the gap option number 1, you'd be covered 100%. With gap option number 2, you'd be covered for that ER visit as well. When you're looking at picking which gap option is best for you, it's always important to look at the out-of-pocket. So the out-of-pocket maximum in this plan is $9,100. So if you go with gap option number 1, in your worst case scenario, what's coming out of pocket for gap covered services is going to be $2,600. If you choose to get the 8,000 gap, in your worst case scenario, you're looking at $1,100. What I did was I got the out of pocket and then I subtracted the gap amount. Okay. So if you go to the ER, you could choose either 6,500 or 8,000 to cover the ER visit. In your worst case scenario, the out of pocket is 9,100. ER visits usually are between 3,000 to 5,000. You want to make sure you're going to the ER when it's truly an emergency, so that you're not using up so much of your gap benefits. Your urgent care is just a copay of $75. In both cases, both gaps are covered. I'm going to skip hospitalization, so we just stay on these outpatient services, and then I'll get back to it. So outpatient surgery, it applies your $5,000 deductible and then 50% co-insurance up to your out-of-pocket of $9,100, and then you have whichever gap option you choose to cover a portion of that cost. Minor diagnostics such as lab work and x-rays has a copay of $75. In both cases, the gap will cover. Your major diagnostics. So neighborhood has something called a designated and a non-designated network. If you follow the instructions here, and we also have the links linked on to your employee navigator, you could search for providers. How do you know if a provider is designated versus non-designated? If they're a designated provider, they're gonna have 2 hearts next to their names. These designated providers have done additional credentialing with United Healthcare, and they're considered clean and safe facilities. And they're basically preferred providers for United. So if you go to a designated provider for a major diagnostic, it's just going to be a copayment of $500. If you want to go to any other provider that's in a network that's not necessarily designated, you are able to. However, it will apply your deductible of $5,000 and the copay of $500. So major diagnostic services usually range between $200 to $800, depending what and where you're having it done. So in both cases, the gap would cover. However, I would like to let you know you could shop where you get your diagnostics done so that you don't use all of your gap benefits. If that is something our claims team, our service team can help you with. Going back to inpatient hospitalization, we know hospitalization is very expensive. So let's say our hospitalization is $100,000. According to this neighborhood plan, your out-of-pocket is $9,100. That's the worst. That's the maximum you could pay in a calendar year for all medical services, and a neighborhood will cover you 100%. So if you stay with the base gap and you're hospitalized, you're looking at out-of-pocket cost of $2,600. If you buy up, you're looking at an out-of-pocket cost of $1,100. Is there a question?
I did have a question actually on the diagnostic services. You mentioned $500 copay, and as if it's not in the designated provider, does the gap cover the copay as well?
Yes. So if it's not designated, it applies your deductible. So let's say you go do a CAT scan and it's $500. They're going to pay $500 to your deductible and an additional $500 copay. So it's going to be $1,000 for that diagnostic, but the gap will cover
the full. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And most of the major hospitals like Baptist, all of those, they're designated. So it just takes a little bit extra time, but our team is here to help. Any questions on this base plan with these 2 gap options? Okay. I'm going to move, the prescriptions. 10 up to 10 for generics, up to 40 for preferred brands, up to 140 for non-preferred brand, and up to 300 for specialty. Prescriptions are not covered by the gap. Okay. I always recommend, another thing you can reach out to our team as well, is going on to GoodRx, because GoodRx will tell you where's the cheapest pharmacy for your medication, and sometimes has discounts as well. So help save some money if you have reoccurring prescriptions. So the buy-up plan, as you see here, it says neighborhood flex. What does that mean? This plan, when you're in Florida, you have the neighborhood network. However, when you leave Florida, you have access to the national network. Okay. You do have to have a Florida address to be on this plan, but this plan does give you access to a national network once you're out of the state of Florida. With the base plan, if you have anything that's emergency or life-threatening, let's say you go to Colorado skiing and you break your leg, you can go to the hospital and it'll be considered in-network because it was an emergency or life-threatening with your base plan. But if you have a cold and you want to see a doctor in Colorado, you will not be able to do that. So with this plan, you do have a national network. So I'm going to go through the benefits. So PCP is 25, specialist is 50, virtual visits are 0, minute clinic is 25. So with this, we have the gap of 6,500, 6,500. There's no co-insurance on this plan. So if you go to the ER, it's just a flat co-payment of $500. You have up to 6,500 that will be covered. Your urgent care is a co-pay of $75, up to 6,500 will cover that. I'm going to skip to outpatient. If you have an outpatient surgery, after you meet your deductible of $4,000, you are not responsible for any cost. You're covered 100%. So 6,500 will cover that surgery completely. Your minor diagnostics has a copay of $50. Your gap will cover that completely. Your major diagnostics, same thing as I mentioned with the designated, non-designated copay option. So you have 400 for designated, non-designated does apply your deductible, and you have 6,500 that will cover that. Jumping back up to hospitalization, if you're hospitalized and your bill is $100,000, your benefits say you are not responsible for any cost after your $4,000 deductible. You have $6,500 to cover you, so your hospitalization would be covered 100%. So with this plan, all of the services that the gap covers, you should be covered almost 100% because it is all copay. So it would take a lot to get to this 6,500. This is also a POS, meaning that you could leave the network. So if you leave the network, you have a deductible of $8,000 and an out-of-pocket of $16,000. Something I like to bring up is just, let's say you leave the network and you go to an out-of-network doctor. You lose this $50 copay. So whatever that out-of-network doctor wants to charge you, let's say they want to charge you $200, then you submit it to neighborhood and they apply it to your $8,000 out-of-network deductible. So you have to meet $8,000 out of network before the insurance covers a dollar. Okay. Also with POSs is, let's say you go do a diagnostic out of network, and the diagnostic in network is usually $500. But when you do it out of network, they charge you $1,000. Neighborhood is only going to apply to the deductible what it would cover in network. So they're only going to apply that $500 to your deductible. So if you have any more questions on the POS, we can talk about it one-on-one, but the POS, your out-of-network benefits are going to come into play with something that's catastrophic. For something like seeing a doctor out of network, they charge you $100, $200 every visit. It's going to be very hard to get to this $8,000 and before you get any coverage out of network. Do we have any questions on this buy-up flex plan with the $6,500 gap?
Nope.
Nope.
I have a question on the base plan. Do you need referrals because it's an HMO plan?
No, it's open access.
Okay.
I'm going to jump to the dental and vision. Same thing as last year. Was there a question? I thought I heard something. Okay. So the dental and vision is the same thing as last year. We're staying with United Healthcare. Your dental is a PPO. Kind of like I mentioned with the medical, you have out-of-network benefits, you have in-network benefits. I always recommend that you stay in-network if possible, because you get more bang for your buck. If you go out of network and your doctor charges you more than what United would cover in network, you're responsible for that difference. Okay, so for example, your cleanings, x-rays are covered 100% twice a year, both in and out of network. Your restorations, general service treatments, and simple extractions are covered 80% in network and 80% out of network. Let's say, for example, in network, United tells dentists the most you could charge for a simple extraction is $200, and then United covers 80% of that $200. If I leave the network and the out-of-network dentist wants to charge me $500 for that simple extraction, United is only going to cover 80% of the $200, what it would cover in network. So you'd be responsible for that difference. I just like to point that out so that there's no surprises. You could always ask your dentist to submit a predetermination so they can let you know what is covered and what is not. And you could always send it over to us and we can give you our feedback. And then your major services such as oral surgery, endodontics, periodontics, crowns, dentures, bridges are covered 50% both in and out of network. Implants are not covered at this plan. There is an orthodontic lifetime max of $1,000 for children. So if you've used it in the past for a child, then it's a lifetime max. It's not one that resets every year, but you do have $1,000 to use once per child that you have on the plan. There's no waiting period. So if you have to get a service done, you can go do it the following day. And it is unlimited. So if you have to do 5 root canals, God forbid, it's going to cover you 50% of those 5 root canals. Your vision benefits are staying the same as well. So you have $10. So unlike your dental, your medical and your gap, where the benefits reset calendar year, your vision resets 12 months after your last visit. Okay. So if you went to your last if I go today, next August 9th is when I can go again and use my vision benefits. So they give you a $10 copay for your exams. If you're doing an exam for glasses or contacts, it's an additional $25 copay. So you're looking at $35 for the exam. And then they give you an allowance that you could use towards frames or contacts. For frames, it's $130. For contacts, it's $105. It's either or. So if you use both, I always recommend using it for your frames because it's a little bit more that they give for the allowance. And if you stay in network, which they have a pretty vast vision network, Warby Parker's in network, all of the big names are in network with United. They give you additional discounts towards the frames. It could be up to 30% towards the frames, not the lenses. Any questions on the dental and the vision? Okay. United has gone green, so there's no physical dental or vision ID cards. They will be on your app, and you could always reach out to us and we can send you the instructions. They're also on Employee Navigator, but they're virtual. So I just want to point that out. I'd recommend that you download the app so you can have all your ID cards in one place. Your FSA, there's an option for your healthcare FSA, which has an annual maximum of $3,050, and your dependent care FSA that has an annual maximum of $5,000. What is an FSA? An FSA is your flexible spending account. That's where you can put in money pre-tax to use for certain covered services. So for your healthcare FSA, you could use it for your co-pays that aren't covered by the GAP. You could use it for dental work, vision expenses. You could use it for your prescription drugs. And then there's a whole list. If you Google healthcare FSA, what's covered of things that they cover. They cover over-the-counter medication, first aid items, contact lens solution. So the thing with the FSA though, is that if you do not use it, you lose it. What does that mean? Is that you want to budget your healthcare costs before saying, I'm going to put $3,050 in there. Because if you're not going to use the $3,050, you could only roll over $610 the following year. I have a question? Okay, so when you're choosing for your FSA deduction, look at your numbers, look how much you're looking to spend this year, you and your family, as much as you guys could forecast, so that you make sure that you're not over putting away where you could possibly not spend that money. The dependent.
Right. So a question on this. So
yes. Hi, David.
So Well, hi, Jessica. So I didn't want to miss this. Now, I understand if there's a big life event coming up, if a baby's coming or whatever. But how do you go about forecasting medical expenses for the next year? Like, what?
So, yeah,
I
that's
don't know,
why,
it makes some sense.
yeah, that's, there's not a perfect answer to that. I don't have a crystal ball, but what I would do is, for example, if you and your wife and your baby are healthy, maybe you don't need to put $3,050 away. But if you know, for example, that you're going to have a big dental procedure coming up, or your wife is going to have a dental procedure, or you get glasses, things like that, I would add up and kind of see. I mean, I'm not sure how often the baby's taken to the pediatrician, but kind of just do the math with what you know today. You could roll over $610. So, I mean, it's not, you don't lose it all, but they only let you roll over the 600.
I see. So for instance, co-payments can be taken out of there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Co-payments. Yeah. So like those PCP, specialist co-pays, prescription co-pays, that could all be taken out of there. And I could email you over, and I'm going to add it to Employee Navigator, all the things that fall under the healthcare FSA, so that when you see that list, you could get a better idea of, oh yeah, we spend money on this and we spend money on this. Okay. The dependent care FSA has a max of 5,000.
Thank you. I was muted, but thank you. Yeah.
Of course. So that you could use for preschool, daycare, summer camp, after school care, a babysitter in your home, and you could put up to $5,000 away for children that are under the age of 13. Okay. These are the deductions for the medical. However, when you log into Employee Navigator, which is the same portal we did last year, you'll be able to see the difference of adding your spouse, adding your child and your family. And I'm going to show you how that Employee Navigator looks now. These are the dental and vision deductions. And then these are some freebies that come with being a United Healthcare member. So as I mentioned, I recommend that you download the app so you can have all your ID cards there. AMWEL is your virtual visit app that has no cost. If you want to speak to a doctor or specialist, they even have mental health therapists on there. There are EAP programs that are completely confidential. So if you need to speak to somebody about, a stressful event going on, anxiety, depression, guidance on financial or legal concerns, you could call and they will point you to the right direction. There are 2 fitness programs that they give you the membership for free. So Peloton and Apple Fitness, you get not the bike, but you get access to all of the classes for free for you and your family members. And the same thing for Apple Fitness. And then UHC has changed their wellness platform. It used to be called Rally. It's now called UHC Rewards. And you could go on there and do challenges, and they ask surveys. And the more you participate, you can earn up to $300 by going through your wellness questionnaire and doing the challenges or answering any questions or activities that they offer. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now, just in case there's some questions. Let me